Hello, welcome to 50 Minutes of Consulting Best Practices. My name is Maria Isabel Rios, and I'm here to answer your questions about how to grow and improve your consulting firm. And my answers are going to be based on our work with over 400 consulting firms. And we're also welcome the comments and insights that those who are joining us live bring to the table. Please submit your questions, submit your comments, and say hello. If you're here live, it always helps. All right, Deidre, let's jump right in and answer the question, one of the questions that was submitted during the week. Thank you. This question is from Robert. I've heard you say multiple times over the years that a 100% win rate is not ideal for your consulting firm. What do you really mean? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me that you want to propose and not win some business. Thank you, Robert, for your question. Okay, Robert, got it. Doesn't make a lot of sense to you. And good morning, John. Happy Monday to you too. Thank you for joining. So, hello, John, as well. Great to see you. So, what do we mean, right? Why do we really not want you to win 100% of the proposals that you actually submit? To me, when you're winning 100% of the proposals that you submit, it's telling me two things, possibly three. One is that you're likely underpricing your work, right? If every single client or prospect accepts right away and they all agree with your fees, likely underpricing your work. The second thing is that you're likely saying yes to every single client request or client ask for what they would like to see in their project, and you're fitting that in to the fees or the budget that they had in mind, right? Or at the fee level that they had in mind. That's also not an ideal situation from a firm management, a firm delivery perspective. Yeah, you're leaving money on the table. Exactly, John. Thank you for sharing that and saying it in different words. The third thing I'm wondering, and this happens sometimes as well, and it's a maybe, is perhaps you're taking too many rounds of discussion and back and forth with your client in iterating a proposal. And so maybe your proposal processes are very protracted. At some point, you want to err on the side of balancing a proposal that is a discussion and a conversation with getting into action and actually getting onto your project. So 100% win rate, stand by it, not a great idea. You always want to have some proposals that are outright rejected. They will give you a good measurement of where your market is at, and over time, you'll get a better sense of the boundaries of how your market makes decisions as well. Robert, let me know if that was helpful or not, and happy to keep the conversation going if you disagree with what I shared today. All right. Unless somebody who's live has a question, and please type it in the comments. Let's go on to the next one. Deidre, why don't you show us the next question that came in? Thank you. This question came from Brad. A prospect called me after I submitted a proposal and said they were going to issue an RFP for the work. Okay, they called me again saying they had issued the RFP. It's much broader in scope than my proposal, and it requests pieces inside and outside my firm's specialty. Do I try to find a way to propose or let it go? Thank you, Brad, for your question. Okay, so RFP, you propose, now there's an RFP, the RFP is bigger than your piece. That's what I understood from your message, okay? So I'm thinking there's three paths depending on how much of the RFP you can respond to with your firm, right? You said there are pieces inside and pieces outside. If your part is large enough, then you can lead and find somebody who can come in as a subject matter expert into the proposal with you. So one path is you lead the bid and you find somebody to complement it so that you have a well-rounded response to the RFP. That's path number one. Second path is the other route, right? If your part is small in the context of the overall RFP, try and find a larger partner that you, in this case, can come under. So share the RFP with somebody who could lead the presentation of the submittal, and that you be willing to partner with and be part of the solution in your area of expertise. And so that's another way in which you could play in the context of the RFP. There's a third path, it's the least travel, right? But it's also an option, because if there's multiple, say, avenues, and you know other boutique consultancies, you could create sort of a consortium in which you come in with experts in equal parts, and you show up to the RFP demonstrating how each one of you will deliver in your area of expertise. And oftentimes, the folks who issue the RFP will value that they get, say, 3 subject matter experts that are willing to work together and are providing a framework to integrate their work, versus having 3 subject matter experts that they've hired independently and do not communicate. So think which one of the 3 scenarios, if any of the 3 scenarios, is viable for you. And maybe that's an answer of how you could be part of this RFP. If none of the 3 are viable or seem addressable for you, RFPs are generally a long shot, particularly when you weren't a part of writing it. So also, right, don't force it in a sense, right? If there's no good answer, then this opportunity was not for you, unfortunately. But think of these 3 scenarios, which one was the one that could be a fit for you and for your firm. And let me know how it goes. All right. Let's do another question, Deidre, then. We'll see. Okay. The question from Jane says, one prospect has been sitting on a proposal for the past 6 weeks and delaying our meeting to discuss next steps. Okay. The proposal said that if they wanted to start in January, they needed to provide approval by November 22nd. They email me now wanting to meet on Tuesday because they want to sign and start the first week in January. We don't have the capacity available to start until February. How do I address this? Do I charge more? All right, Jane. Hey, Jane, you're in a situation that is a little bit unfortunate, and it's probably not unknown to those of us who had quite a few white hairs and have been in consulting for a while, right? You give clients a timeline to make a decision, and invariably they take longer. So what do you do now where you don't have capacity to start until February? First thing, tell your prospect that you're excited to start, right? Convey that emotion as opposed to starting with a negative thought that says, look, January is a no-go, which is where sometimes we would go when we're thinking, okay, this is the timeline and all of that. If you're excited to start the project, if this is a good project that you would want to take on, communicate that first. Be right side up, make it about them. They've made a decision, congratulate them on that. Then you could start exploring with your prospect whether actually starting in February is viable. I just read, I know they told you that they wanted to start in January, but how about starting in February? Figure out if there's elasticity in those dates. Oftentimes there is, right? If they say no, is there an opportunity for a soft start? What can you do? Can you do a soft kickoff? Can you put pieces in place? What's really the timeline that your client has in mind for January? What's the compromise? And ultimately, if they're unwilling to make any compromise with you, then you can talk about an implication in fees or things like that. And yes, you're right, John, right? You're saying this could be a red flag. Is the client somebody who's reliable, good to work with? Will they delay? You're right about all of that. But sometimes people take a little bit longer than we had given them to decide, especially to decide to kick off. And how people make decisions in the moment when they're deciding to sign or not sign is ultimately or may not reflect how the team will work once the project has started, right? I would be a lot more concerned if the client was delaying payment or if the client had ghosted, had been ghosting. But in reality, it's a couple of weeks delay and not like 6 months or 9 months, though it's been known to happen too. So start by exploring, see how difficult or how straightforward they are in conversation when you lay out the timeline, and what does January really mean for them versus what does February mean. And then you take it down from there. You can invite them to problem solve with you. You don't need to solve this whole calendar issue on your own. Invite your prospect to solve it with you. And hopefully between the two of you, you'll find a solution that allows you to start the project in no problem. And you're right, John. If they find in those conversations that the prospect is really difficult, then you could have a red flag, but maybe not, right? Maybe they'll surprise you and they'll be really accommodating. Right, I think, Deidre, we can do one more question today. Thank you, John, for your input and for your insights as well. Okay, this question is from Alex. Really long to read questions today. You're queuing them all up for me. So my clients are primarily entrepreneurial in diverse stages of growth. Sometimes it takes a few rounds of discovery before we understand if we can work together on the project they ideally want, or if we have to rethink everything to adapt to what they can actually afford. Okay? Nobody gives me a meaningful answer to the budget or heart attack questions. Good for you for asking. That's awesome. How can I approach the conversation differently? Alex. Okay, so entrepreneurial clients, they don't give you an answer to budget or heart attack, but it takes you a little bit of time to figure out whether they can afford you or not. Thank you, Alex, for your question. Okay, here's a challenge for you, Alex. Would like for you to think, what are indicators that if you knew early on in conversation or in the exchanges with your prospects will give you a good sense of whether someone is likely to afford you or not? Can you ask those questions in a right side up way, of course, before you meet or as you meet for the first time? So I'm thinking, if you have those indicators, if you have identified them, and you can ask those questions, then you can reset the pathways of your conversation so that you're not spending a whole discovery going in one direction to then have to reshift and retool conversation in another once you find out whether they actually have cash or have the ability to invest or don't have the ability to invest, or whether they can do a scope that is this big versus this big, right? What are those indicators? My guess is with your expertise and your knowledge of the business and your observations over time, over what differentiates one prospect and another, you can come up with that list of the 3, 4, 5 questions to ask at the very beginning of your conversation that are not your context discussion that will allow you to determine if this is a prospect of one type versus another. All right, let me know if that is helpful. And with that, we're at the end of our 15 minutes. So 3 requests for you today. 1, if you don't have Monday Live in your calendars, and Deidre, thank you. Yeah, just put the URL here. Please add it to your calendars. It will bring you to this space every Monday. And quite a few of you that join us regularly have probably done that already. Here's the URL, copy, take it down, and then come join us. Every Monday we'll be here. Second one, subscribe to the articles that come out every Wednesday. They're full of insights. They're tactical. They're practical. The articles are great. The illustrations are great. And the comments and the back and forth are also great as well. And the third one, registration for the Solo Practice Accelerator is open right now. The Solo Practice Accelerator takes place in March of 2025. And it's for firms that are under $1 million in revenue a year. So take a look at the Solo Practice Accelerator if you haven't already. And it's open for registration. So we hope that you can join us in March of next year. And until next week, this is about building firms that are successful. It's about serving our clients and delivering value for them and helping our clients be successful and for you to have delightful practices. So thank you for joining us. Send us your questions. Bye. Thanks.